So first of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Niall Muldoon and the Office of the Children's Ombudsman for requesting this discussion today. And I have to say, I think that he has been particularly progressive in general in his role, and I think that office is absolutely excellent in the work that they do. I also think we should take every opportunity to discuss children, the impact of COVID-19, and in particular the scourge of child poverty and homelessness. The COVID-19 pandemic has had an enormous impact on the developmental, physical and mental well-being of children in Ireland. The world as children know it has fundamentally changed. The unprecedented challenges facing children as we emerge from COVID-19 are not insignificant. They've impacted their physical health, their mental health, fair and equitable access to education and a secure home, and their social outlets. Their ability to play was completely curtailed. The closure of juvenile sports, we also saw dance and other after-school activities, music, stuff like the likes of the film club that I know I speak about regularly, the Young Irish Filmmakers. They were all closed, or some of them had to go online, which also wasn't really great, particularly for the younger cohort of children. They kind of, it wasn't great interaction. It's very difficult for them to concentrate on Zoom. I think we find it hard at times, but when you're that age, it's even more difficult. They returned to the classroom in a completely changed environment. There's social distancing, segregation through the pods, and then face masks for some children as well in school. Children in one-parent homes, children experiencing homelessness, persistent poverty, domestic violence, those living in direct provision, or young people struggling with addiction and substance abuse have been disproportionately affected as well by a loss of contact with the outside world. Inequalities already experienced by many vulnerable and disadvantaged children in the Irish traveller community, the Roma and migrant communities, have been accelerated. As services and supports were temporarily removed or closed during the pandemic, vulnerable children felt the impact of this the most. As many parents lost employment or were forced to reduce their economic activity, children were at increased risk of experiencing poverty, and the switch to online learning did not work in all households. I have to say, I personally found the online school extremely difficult. I don't know how teachers or anybody does that. It was certainly a challenge, I'll say. Families already experiencing multiple adversities found that their difficulties intensified during COVID-19 and that they were unable to access the same level of support from family and friends, while simultaneously unable to access the same level of professional support through community, health and specialist services. And it's unreasonable to expect children of all backgrounds and ability to just pick up where they left off. We have a duty of care to help already struggling families so they don't fall into homelessness. I'm also concerned that the pandemic has further embedded the existing developmental gap between disadvantaged children and their peers when they return to school. And just to say on the returning to school as well, I think I know this falls into education, but anything that we can do to help children along, because even if you weren't struggling beforehand, just getting back into that whole routine and system and homework and everything. And I think a lot of kids feel like, you went out in third class, you came back in maybe in fourth class, and it's sort of, it's very hard just to catch up. And I think anything that we can do in relation to that really will have such long-term benefits, particularly around the emotional well-being of children, because when you start struggling in school and then you realise that you start dreading going into school, you're not sure of your homework, and it just becomes such a negative circle. So anything that can be done in that regard should definitely be emphasised. A range of educational, socio-economic and health inequalities have been further exacerbated. Digital inequalities mean families who may benefit the most from early intervention might lose out. As we come out of COVID-19, undetected needs will emerge, and as Dr. Niall Muldoon rightly points out, children must be prioritised. As the calls from industry grow louder, children's voices cannot be lost, and I think that's key, particularly in the run-up to the budget. We have an opportunity to really address how children are living in Ireland. I and several of my colleagues in Sinn Féin have been working on a document that addresses some of the obstacles facing children and their families as we emerge from the pandemic, and I was struck in meetings with various stakeholders in child welfare that there was a cross-department strategy for children was needed. A children's recovery plan is essential, and I hope to publish this document in the coming weeks, or we hope to publish it. One issue that continues to come up again and again and absolutely affects children from disadvantaged and marginal backgrounds is the access to vital early years and childcare hours through the National Childcare Scheme, and unfortunately the Department's continual denial that the under-allocation of hours to children on the basis of their parents' employment or educational status is not having a detrimental impact is simply unacceptable. And that's something I just want to raise again with you, Minister. I know I raised nearly in all the questions with you, but that is an issue. Again, I don't want to eat into my colleagues' time, so just to thank Dr. Muldoon and the staff of the Ombudsman. As I said, I think they're particularly progressive and they do excellent work. Thanks.
Deputy Martin Kelly.